Etapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Kusankma Keparu with another video for you. And in this video, I want to talk about how to communicate with spirits and interdimensional beings via DMT. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. And if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. Also, we have some free ebooks that you can read that expand on my teachings. You can just click the link below and start to download them and read them today. And if you're not already a Patreon supporter, you can do so for as little as $1 or $20 per month. And on there, we have very special instructional videos that teach you how to invoke spirits, how to do a ritual, how to do proper breathing techniques, how to meditate. So it's well worth your contribution to take part in those special exclusive videos. So I want to talk about the subject matter today, but before I get into that, I just want to follow up on a couple of things that I spoke about the other day when we were talking about how using your power is the easy way to live your life. Because keeping in mind that who you truly are is consciousness. Consciousness has no beginning, it has no end, it has no bounds. It is not subject to linear time-space. When you truly experience what you are, it is a profound experience. There was a woman who had a stroke, and she had a part of her brain was incapacitated. And what she experienced was a profound sense of limitless. She didn't sense or feel her body. She felt part of the cosmos, felt part of everything. She couldn't feel where she started or ended. She was everything. And it was the most extraordinary thing that had happened to her. And this is the state of who you truly are. The state of individuality is an intermediate experience. And we're experiencing this to help Neter come to the realization of itself, to help Neter gain experience. But don't be fooled into thinking that this is the end all and be all of your existence and your being. This is a very temporary experience, this three-dimensional experience that we're going through right now. You are under the illusion that it is solid. You're under the illusion that it is real, when in actuality it is not. Who you are is consciousness. And consciousness has the principle of non-locality, meaning that you don't exist in any one or point fixed in space and time. You exist everywhere. And through consciousness, you can travel from here to Alpha Centauri in the middle of microseconds. Quickly. As soon as you think of it, you're there. Now, what you're going to find is that this may seem very far-fetched, it may seem science fiction, but the reason that it seems so is because those are in control, those, the ruling elite, as we want to call them, have purposely trapped us in fourth dimensional thinking, 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, so that our experience is very limited. And they want to keep us in that bottle. They want to keep us that way. Because what it does for the planet is that it creates strife, it creates wars, it creates poverty, it creates disease. Our ancestors knew thousands of years ago that the essence of who they are is consciousness, and that consciousness can be experienced in what we call this objective realm. And another part to understanding and accepting is that you live in a very subjective experience, meaning that we don't all share in the same so-called reality. Our reality is based on our thoughts and our beliefs. We create the reality, we create the experience, or what Michael Talbot calls the holographic universe. We create the holographic projection for us to experience our own particular reality. Because this is a destiny that we must go through. This is a specific experience that Neter, Nebecher, Yahweh, God, Neter, has assigned to us. Do you understand what I'm saying? God, creator of all that there is, said to you, I need your help. I need to experience something. And we're going to call that something a theme or a destiny. And you will help me to experience that. Let us call this theme or destiny unrequited love. And you agree to that. And then Neter says, then you will now agree to have a specific set of experiences that will help facilitate the realization of that experience. And then you go along with that plan. Meanwhile, a friend of yours may come and need to experience a different destiny or a different theme. And that may be to transcend the physical body. So when they're born in this fourth dimensional plane, they will experience disease and sickness. But they are helping that they're out by experiencing this so that their reality will be far apart from yours, very different from yours. They will exist in their own reality tunnel. See, we all are under hypnosis right now. We're all experiencing a type of hypnosis where we have manufactured reality so that we can experience it. And this experience provides Neter with information. And that information is uploaded to the oversoul. We all are guided and have watching over us an oversoul. You understand that? So keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. But the main thing about takeaway from our last program was that you are a powerful being. Yes, you're going through an experience, and the experience may not be one that's conducive to your liking, but you have control over how it unfolds. I talked about going to the retreat and not wanting to go to dinner, but then what I did was I used my power to create or manufacture a situation where it will be a harmonious experience. So I sat down there with a woman who was biracial, and her and I had the same background. We were able to talk, and that there was actually an open seat next to her. So it was very fortuitous. And the waiter was there ready to give me whatever food I wanted. Come to find out, we actually worked in the same office and we didn't realize it because there were people at this retreat from all over the country. And what I even found that was even more ironic, call it synchronicity, call it coincidence, was that when I went back to the office, she had been working there for at least 2 weeks. And I did not know she was working there for 2 weeks. Not only that, she sat right next to me. How was that possible that we could have been sitting next to each other but never knew that? Even at dinner, we didn't know we sat next to each other in the office. So I went to her because she's working as an intern, and I said, listen, I'm producing some animation videos. We just got funding today, so that was some really good news. We got funding to proceed with an animation video. So I was working today on the budgeting and working with the producer to get things ready for the shoot. And I said to her, why don't you come and work with us? We're doing a lot of films and stuff. And she was really happy about that. So it worked out for her. And it definitely worked out for me because now I think I'm in love. She has a very, very nice way of speaking, meaning that the frequency at which she admits her vocal tonality is very soothing and very calming. It's very Osset, very nice. But anyway, I digress. These magical experiences are not unusual, they're not odd. This is what you can experience. This can be your norm if you tap into your power. That is the thing that you have to realize and understand that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about a conversation that's going on in the African American community that's really getting to the forefront of mainstream media, which is ADOS, African descendants of slaves. They're now demanding reparations, which I think is a very good thing. And in order to qualify for the reparations, you have to be an ADOS, a descendant of slaves. But I want you to really understand something, because I don't want us to miss the mark. And I'm kind of digressing with this, but this is okay. That I think it's great that Slavery was a very tragic event that was not just here in North America, but it was global. And if you've read any of my works, I talk about that the reason that slavery happened was because the ruling elite needed to get rid of people who were right brain thinkers. It needed to get rid of people that created the most advanced cultures on the planet. And it was the reason that they created these advanced cultures was through the power of integrated brain thinking, because they were both right and left brain thinkers. And we're going to get into that as we talk about DMT. So they set out to annihilate these individuals from the planet. And they almost did that with the Native Americans here in North America. So I think that the whole thing about ADOS going for reparations, which clearly are justified and needed, is falling short. We have to recognize the problem on the planet, which is the conspiracy and the plot to exterminate people of color from the planet. That is exactly what is happening. And if you don't think it's happening, just go and research history and look at history. Every culture of color, high culture civilization of color, has been hidden by modern archaeologists, by modern historians. It's either been hidden or they've whitewashed it. Because the truth of the matter is they know what's going on. And I'm going to tie this into something bigger and more profound so you understand. Because this is not really about race. It's more about understanding what can take us to the next level of consciousness, which is to merge the right and left hemisphere of the brain, which is what ancient Kemet was built upon. This is what Asar was all about. The great uniter, as he was called, the resurrected one. What does that mean by the great uniter? He united Upper and Lower Egypt, but that's just a metaphor. That's an analogy to uniting the hemispheres of the brain. They were trying to teach us how to elevate consciousness, all right? How to reach those higher levels. And there's a direct connection between merging the left and right hemisphere of the brain and the pineal gland and melanin. And we will see that here. You must understand that. The ruling elite, thousands of years ago, understood this connection. So much so that they realized that in order to put themselves in power and to take control of the planet, they have to eliminate those civilizations of high culture and those people who created those civilizations. So they had to create the propaganda of race, which is an illusion, which is not a reality, because you are consciousness. You're not a race. You're an infinite being. You're an all-powerful being. But they had to get you trapped into 4D thinking. And they were very successful in doing it. Because in today's modern world, we see people fighting wars over resources, over nationality, over religion. Do you understand how primitive and stupid that is to fight over such things? I'm serious. I want you to really look at the fact that Neter, creator of all that there is, created abundance, ma'at, which you can neither subtract from or add to. And now you have these lunatics controlling the planet, and they're manipulating resources to get nations to fight, peoples to fight, nationalities to fight, races to fight. They want us fighting over trivial things like, again, religion, race, ethnicity, resources. And they've created or manufactured these wars so they can feed off this negative energy and imprison the planet. Well, we have a way to deal with this. And one of the things I've always said, that we cannot defeat them using military might, using political power, because they've got more of that. They have trillions and trillions of dollars. So we're going to have to fight them on a metaphysical level. fight them by invoking spirits, invoking interdimensional beings that can take on the mission to bring these people down. That is the only way it's going to work. But we first have to change our own thinking to understand who we are and understanding that we're not the only ones on this planet, that there are other beings existing in parallel realities, in interdimensional environments. In fact, I should talk about that. When you're talking about these beings, we're talking about three primary environments. We're talking about interdimensional beings, intra-dimensional beings, and extra-dimensional beings. You have to understand that. And at any time, these beings who are benevolent are waiting for us to come to make contact with them so they can give us counseling, so they can aid us in freeing the planet. But we're so caught up in third dimensional thinking, 3D thinking, that we cannot conceive of that fact. We cannot believe that. And I've already just told you as a precursor to this, that whatever you believe, you create as your reality experience in this matrix. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whatever you believe, because you're so powerful, you will make it so. If you say that there is an external environment, an external world that you have no control over, you're so powerful that you'll create that. God is so loving and so just of a God that if you curse God, if you reject God, God will still love you. Imagine that. When they did their experiments, scientists did their experiments in their laboratories, right? Especially in the pharmaceutical industry, they realized that if they were to tell the subjects in the experiments what the medication would do, for example, they would say, right here, but they would say, we're going to give you this pill that can cure baldness. And the person would take the pill, and lo and behold, they would start to grow hair. And what the scientists did, they were very cunning. They gave the person a sugar pill. That's all it was, a sugar pill. And the person started growing hair. Because they knew that the person was so powerful of a being that whatever suggestion they would give the individual, that their spirit would act upon it and manifest it. All through the power of belief. So if I told you that if you wanted a mate in your life, that you could manifest a mate, and you believe that, and you took it into your spirit would act upon it because you're God. God's consciousness is within you. In fact, you have no choice. That's the law. Why is it that we disconnect so much? We can believe the placebo effect in a scientific laboratory, but yet fail to use that same logic in our own lives. We understand it works in a laboratory, but we don't ever use that in our lives. Don't you find that interesting? That's that left brain thinking. It's disconnecting everything. It doesn't find associations. It doesn't bring things together. It doesn't synthesize. It doesn't congregate. And that's the problem we're having in this world. And I'm going to reveal to you something that's very profound, and you'll understand why the world is in the condition it is now and how we can save the planet. How we can save the planet. But the first thing I want all you Magi's to do is stop supporting the Hotep crime syndicate. Because I'm tired of being associated with those Hotepers. Because most of them have criminal records and criminal backgrounds. So please stop watching their videos. Please stop supporting them, because they're not legitimate priests and priestesses. They're making that stuff up, and they're engaging in intellectual masturbation. But I digress. Let's get down to the real stuff here. Now, when I'm giving an example of the young woman that sat next to me, and her and I never realized that we sat next to each other, and we met each other at the dinner the night before at the retreat, that is an example of consciousness manufacturing or shifting to a new parallel reality to grant you your wish. In other words, vibrationally, I shifted to a new reality where she would be sitting next to me. That's how miraculous and how powerful you are. You can manifest a mate, you can manifest money, but you just got to believe it, though. You have to intake it. Belief is the realm of the god Sebek or Anubis. Sebek deals with belief systems. It is said that if your beliefs are in line with truth, Ma'at, Sebek will open the way. And that's what he does. It's the placebo effect. That's what it is. We have found out, and our ancestors have always known this, because they've used different herbs and medicines to transfer their consciousness to other dimensions, to interact with these dimensional beings. Before I go into that, let me explain to you this. One of the reasons why the ruling elite, Illuminati, the Cabal, whatever you want to call them, are so powerful, because they have open portals to communicate with dark deceased beings, with dark interdimensional beings. They're directly communicating with these beings and getting information on the future, the past, information on technology, and they're using that information to enslave the planet. Meanwhile, they tricked you into believing that those things are hocus pocus and phony and sci-fi movies. And these benevolent beings that will assist us and help us free the planet are just waiting there. But it's okay, because they experience time differently. So they can wait. We have to wake up the planet to get to the point where we now start to realize that we can access these portals, go into those different realms and communicate with them and get counseling advice, and they will further assist us in developing our spirit to the next level of evolution. Our ancestors discovered that there were herbs that can take us directly into these different realms. Herbs such as DMT and ayahuasca. And I'd like to explore DMT in this video. So what is DMT? It's known as the spirit molecule. All right. So let's do a little research and try to understand what this is. Because I'll let you know a little secret. More people use it than you realize. And it is widely used in Silicon Valley to increase intelligence, to increase mental stamina, if taken in the right doses. So I want you to watch. Well, first of all, understand that DMT is illegal and ayahuasca is illegal in this country. It's illegal for a reason. They don't want you messing in that realm. It is illegal for the same reason why you have the propaganda by the Western religions to keep you away from meditation, keep you away from invoking spirits, keep you away from diving into the realms of the right brain via hypnosis or hypnotherapy. Why is all of that suddenly poo-pooed or illegal or vilified? Because they know what happens when you start to look into that stuff. You start to become powerful. One of the researchers in this area was a man by the name of Hancock. Yes, I'm sorry, Graham Hancock. He talks about this and how powerful DMT is and what it could do to the planet if we start using this so-called spirit molecule. And I want you to hear what he has to say on the subject matter, so you get an idea of the importance of this. All right.
Our society is absolutely designed to shut down 90% of the potential of the human creature. Why should it be the case that society is afraid of realizing human potential? What it comes down to is special interests. That there are those who run things in society, and that there are those who are there to kind of serve them, and serve their ends, and serve their needs. And so what our society has created is a realm of unquestioning neat robots who will perform their daily tasks without complaining and without causing any trouble. And that may be very useful to certain small interest groups, but it's extremely damaging to the rest of humanity. Once we realize our potential, we don't need elites anymore. Who needs elites? Who needs to be led? This is another revelation that comes from working with psychedelics, is we do not need leaders. They are not over us, telling us what to do. They may imagine that that's what they're doing, but they have no right to do them. And the moment we begin to wake up and start asking really profound questions about the nature of reality and about the society we live in, their power is instantly diminished. And I think that's why we've seen such vigor and real nasty unpleasantness put into this horrible, wicked thing called the war on drugs, which is being used as an excuse to enter the inner sanctum of people's lives. See, if I'm not sovereign over my own consciousness, if I can't make free choices about my own consciousness, if I can't make those free choices while doing no harm to others, then I am not free in any useful or meaningful sense. And the moment that I free myself, then I become a danger to those who run things in the world. Anybody who has been led to question the nature of things profoundly as a result of psychedelics is a danger to the status quo. We risk being thrown in prison, we risk having our reputations destroyed if the powers that be enter our home and find that we're using psychedelics. I mean, this is really an Orwellian world that we've created. How dare some guy in a suit sitting in government tell me what to do with my consciousness, while at the same time they're allowing, the glorification and glamorization of alcohol, which is one of the most dangerous drugs on the planet. I mean, alcoholism.
Do you see the disconnect there? How they can make legal alcohol, cigarettes, which is known to contain rat poison and all type of carcinogenics that will kill you. You know the effects of alcohol and drinking and driving and how it's destroyed families. Alcoholism is very pervasive in our society, but yet, how many people have died from DMT? You understand what I'm saying? And when people take DMT, one of the profound things that they experience is that if they suffer from depression, that's eliminated. And they come out to be a profoundly different person, a person who's morally upright, who's optimistic, who is happy, who is at peace. That never happens from somebody addicted to cigarettes and alcohol. So why is that illegal? Why is DMT illegal?
It's a seriously dangerous drug, whether you're talking about cirrhosis of the liver, or whether you're talking about traffic accidents, or whether you're talking about violence. Alcohol, there's no doubt about it. Nobody can dispute it. It's an extremely dangerous drug. So a society that says alcohol's okay, and you can even advertise it, but psilocybin or DMT are not okay, and if you use them, you'll be sent to prison. That society is just riddled through and through with unbelievable hypocrisy. And we have to bring that out. We have to show people this is the case, because what's going on here is a fundamental abuse of human rights. We must be free to make decisions over our own consciousness, always with the proviso that we do no harm to others. And any government, any state agency that attempts to limit our freedom over our own consciousness is itself an agency of darkness and control. I think one of the wonders of these medicines, of DMT, is that they reconnect us to spirit. And if there is anything that is desperately needed in modern industrial technological society, it is a reconnection to spirit. That's what's missing. That absence of spirit is why there is so much pain in the world today, and why people are willing to inflict so much suffering on one another. Once we reconnect with spirit, we realize that we are an intrinsic part of the human family. What the psychedelics are showing us is that we are all members of one family of consciousness, and that they strip away all the trivial shit like the color of our skin or the country in which we were born or the legal system under which we grew up. They strip that away and they bare the soul because it is a mystery to be alive at all, to have experiences, to have our senses, to fall in love, to be engaged in the world. All of that, if you think about it, I mean, where did we come from? We're born in these bodies, we grow up in a family, we go out there in the world, we take it all for granted, but it's a giant mystery from beginning to end. These psychedelics are agents of liberation. I'm not saying they're all perfect and wonderful and good things, but are they agents of liberation that lead us to ask questions that we would never have asked before? Yes, absolutely. And do they lead us to want to be better human beings? Yes, absolutely. And do they lead us to see the faults and the crack lines in our society which have been so carefully papered over? Yes, absolutely. And as a result, there has been a concerted effort to suppress this growth of freedom. But you know what? It's not going to work. That effort is failing. People are waking up all over the world. Not fast enough yet, not large enough numbers, but it's happening. It's a small scale. It's growing, and it's going to continue to grow. And humanity will move forward in a positive course. I'm absolutely sure that psychedelics have a great role to play.
What I want you to understand is that we naturally secrete DMT, and that's through the pineal gland, and the powers that be want to calcify that, enable it, basically render it or incapacitate it so that it's not effective, and they're doing that through fluoride, and fluoride is what we find in our drinking water and our toothpaste, and we use it. And in Germany, they would put fluoride in the water to get the people to be more conducive to being led, to being influenced, to being controlled. Okay. Now, we naturally, like I said, produce DMT when you go to sleep or when you enter different states. If you look at ancient cultures, especially Kemet, ancient cultures across the globe, one of the interesting things, we can equate a number of things. Number one, that most of those ancient cultures were very moral in the way they operated. They operated based on ma'at, truth, justice, and righteousness. There was no pedophiles, no serial killers, none of that. No racism, no sexism. Well, how could that be? Well, if you look at all of those cultures, they had something in common. That through their artworks, they had depictions of the pine cone, or really the third eye, the ucha, or the pineal gland, which secretes the DMT. So we can make the assumption very clearly that what kept these civilizations advanced, morally upright for thousands and thousands of years was because these civilizations were allowed to access the third eye, the pineal gland, to work with DMT as a medicine, to propel the civilizations to the height, to the zenith of not just morality, but technologically as well. And I want you, and you know, we'll put these things like DMT and ayahuasca fall under the category of psychedelics, psychedelic drugs, which are really just medicine. And if you're interested in experiencing these things, you can go to South America where it is legal, where you can work with a shaman or shaw woman, and they'll have a ritual and they'll administer the medicine to you so you can have an experience. Let's go into a little bit deeper about exactly what is the pineal gland and its relationship to DMT, because I think that is very important and that will lead us to understanding what's really going on in this planet, okay? So let's look at that.
The pineal gland. The pineal gland is a tiny pine cone-shaped endocrine gland about the size of a grain of rice, tucked in a small groove where the two halves of the thalamus join. Aside from regulating sleep and wakefulness through melatonin production, the pineal gland, also known as the third eye, has been referred to the principal seat of the soul and is a common focus of spirituality and mysticism. Could this mysterious structure be the home to a sixth human sense, a transcendent power referred to in every major civilization since the dawn of recorded history? For thousands of years, the pineal gland has been a great mystery, an emblem of higher consciousness. It was only very recently that we discovered a molecular basis for these notions. In 2013, researchers at the University of Michigan discovered something incredible being produced in the pineal gland of live rats. DMT, the most powerful psychotropic molecule known to man. This game-changing discovery was predicted decades earlier by clinical psychiatrist and psychedelic researcher Dr. Rick Strassman, author of DMT, the spirit's molecule. DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is a psychedelic compound occurring naturally in over 200 plants, also produced endogenously in the brain, said to peak in humans during REM sleep and right before the moment of death. Researchers link DMT to out-of-body experiences, time-space distortion, birth, and other instances of mystical perception. DMT has been shown in several scientific studies to have a profound effect on consciousness. Discovering the pineal gland to be a producer of DMT has rooted the enigmatic myth of this structure being a gateway to expanded consciousness to a molecular, physiological basis. Even before the pineal gland was proven to produce DMT, its regulatory functions of wakefulness via melatonin secretion have connected the gland to meditation and trance states. Meditative states are correlated with a sharp increase in melatonin. A melatonin influx lets the brain know it's time for sleep. Naturally triggered by the onset of darkness, increased melatonin during meditative states lets the brain know to slow down, allowing the mind to drop from the highly attentive waking brainwave states of beta frequencies into the calm, intuitive dreaminess of alpha and theta states. It's easier to meditate in the morning or late at night because the pineal gland has already begun producing the melatonin necessary for the brain to slow down and drop into a more relaxed and expansive state of consciousness. By regulating melatonin, the pineal gland is regulating the frequency of brainwaves, shamaning their corresponding spectrums of awareness. Between controlling the production of the powerful psychedelic DMT and regulating wakefulness and the frequency of brainwaves with melatonin, it's clear that ancient civilizations and countless mystics were onto something when they linked this tiny pine cone-shaped enigma with enlightenment and seat of the self.
Now, okay, it goes further than that. All right, I want you to just to understand like how deep this goes. Okay, not only do we know that DMT takes you into higher states of consciousness, takes you to different realms to meet interdimensional beings, but we also know that it has a profound effect on intelligence. Wow, isn't that interesting? Because we still can't figure out how our ancestors built the pyramids. We still can't figure out how they did all the wondrous things they did. Well, maybe it was because they were exploring the inner realms of the mind and understood the importance of the pineal gland, medicines like DMT, to help their civilizations reach a higher state of being intellectually, while we are intellectually held back in a stupor state. So I want to talk a little bit about that because I think that's important, because it just has profound implications here. Let's look at this right here, what they discovered. Psychedelic research on microdosing rats with DMT reveals unusual results. In the first of its kind study, a team of researchers from the University of California, Davis, has examined the effects of psychedelic microdosing on animal behavior. The results yielded a variety of unexpected effects, including some surprising negative changes, affirming the need for more research into the growing trend. The modern phenomena of psychedelic microdosing arose over the last decade, primarily due to the American researcher James Fadman popularizing the idea with the book, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide in 2011. The idea is that the small doses of psychedelics such as LSD can result in an enhancement to productivity, creativity, mental well-being, and energy. But the key is that these doses are so small, the user does not experience any hallucinogenic effects. Understand what they're saying here is that taking these medicines in small microdoses can enhance productivity, creativity, mental well-being, and energy. Many in Silicon Valley are on this stuff. They're microdosing LSD, DMT. Although anecdotal stories of self-administered microdosing have flourished, the phenomenon has remained one of the most understudied areas of psychedelic medicine. Not only have there been no human trials into microdosing, but there have been no studies in animals either. A compelling new study set out to fill some of these gaps in the science, testing the effects of 2-month DMT microdose regime on rats. Prior to our study, essentially nothing was known about the effects of psychedelic microdosing on animal behaviors, says David Olson, lead on the UC David Research Project. This is the first time anyone has demonstrated in animals that psychedelic microdosing might actually have some beneficial effects, particularly for depression or anxiety. Meanwhile, you get an antidepressant from your doctor and it has all these other side effects that could really hurt you. So you can go on yourself to read these articles, but I want you to understand the benefits of this. I don't see any side effects to using this medicine. And it's very clear in my mind why the ruling elite, while our government outlaws these medicines like DMT and ayahuasca. You don't want a population of people who are spiritually evolved, who are educated, who are smart, who are intelligent, who can increase their productivity. Because what you don't need then is you don't need politicians and you don't need so-called leaders. These people had tapped into a higher level of morality and spirituality. Do you understand that? Do you understand the importance of that? Now let's go deeper into this, and want to get a eyewitness. Let's get some eyewitness testimony on what's it like to take DMT. All right, let's hear from someone who has had the trip experience, you know, and see what they have to say on the matter.
What's up, beautiful people? My name is Jonas, and in this video I'm going to be sharing 10 lessons that I learned from taking DMT. dimethyltryptamine. For those of you who may not know, DMT is one of the most powerful psychedelic substances that we know of. And this is such a fascinating mystery for so many reasons. I'm so passionate about discussing this topic because not only did it totally transform my life, not only was it a big reason why I started this YouTube channel, but I genuinely believe that this is a key to unlocking new insights about some of life's greatest mysteries, about the nature of consciousness, about life and death, about where we came from and where we're going. If DMT is used in the right way, it can bring about these experiences that are so profound, that are so incredible and bizarre and beautiful and amazing and mind-blowing that truly there are no words for it. There are no words that can do it justice. When you take DMT, you close your eyes. It's a fully internal experience, and yet instead of the usual darkness, there is an explosion of light and color. And the best way to describe it is that it feels as though consciousness, or the essence of your being, the spirit, the soul, is traveling. It feels like you have been launched out of your body beyond your human identity, and you're just this pure awareness traveling. And it feels as though you pass through a tunnel or a portal and emerge into a different reality, a different dimension, an alternate realm of existence. And that's where the term DMT breakthrough comes from. It feels like you have transcended beyond the limitations of space and time and broken through into a different place that coexists with this physical universe. It's as though this place is saturated in meaning and beauty and significance and love in a way that is truly impossible to put into words. For me, there's this subjective feeling that was just undeniable, that this is a divine realm. This is where I have come from before this lifetime, and this is where we will all ultimately return. In his book, DMT, the Spirit Molecule, Dr. Rick Strassman describes DMT as a personal encounter with the Big Bang, God, cosmic consciousness, the source of all being. Whatever we call it, we know we have met the fundamental bedrock and fountainhead of existence, one that emanates love, wisdom, and power on an unimaginable scale. And I want to emphasize that this is very different from a hallucination or a dream or a fantasy. There is this intense feeling of reality to the experience.
People under a high dose of DMT in our work, they repeatedly and uniformly say the experience is more real than real. It's the most real thing that's ever happened to me. That this reality just seems like a dream compared to the pure, solidity and convincing nature of what happens under high dose of DMT.
And just one more thing before I share 10 lessons that I've learned from DMT, I want to emphasize that I am not advocating for the general use of DMT. It's not something to do just to trip or just to have fun. This is profound inner exploration, and I think that this is a very sacred tool. I think it's a gift to have this cross your path, and for that reason, it has to be honored and respected. Number one is that DMT reveals beyond a shred of doubt that there is so much more to existence than what meets the eye. As vast and infinite as this universe is, it is only the tiniest tip of the never-ending iceberg that is the mystery of life. And there are infinite other realms and dimensions and layers to existence that coexist with this one, but which we cannot perceive with our physical senses. This is like a whole new frontier that is waiting to be explored and mapped by humanity. And mainstream science has yet to recognize this. Mainstream science, we're still in this materialist paradigm, but I think that very soon we will discover undeniably that materialism is such a limited perspective on the infinite mysteries of life. Number two, consciousness is not produced by the brain. You may have heard the quote before that we are not human beings having spiritual experiences, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And before DMT, I had heard that quote and I thought it was a nice quote, but when I took DMT, suddenly this became a direct experience. When you feel yourself traveling outside of the body, beyond this physical universe, in a very bizarre way, at some point it becomes undeniable. There's a recognition that what I am is more than this lifetime. I am beyond this body and mind. It's kind of like how a computer does not produce the electrical current that runs through it. The electrical current exists independently of the computer. Likewise, the brain biocomputer does not produce the consciousness which animates it and gives it life. What we are, consciousness, is a mystery that is so much deeper than this lifetime, than this human identity. Number 3.
So what did I tell you guys? I told you this. What do I always tell you guys in every video we do? I said, you are consciousness. You are not the physical body. You do not exist in any fixed point in space and time. You are everywhere. And he's getting into that right now in terms of the oneness. Let's see what he has to say about that, because that's good.
Is that all is one. The deeper that you go with the DMT experience, the more that it becomes intuitively, undeniably obvious that what I am, what we are, is interconnected to the fabric of everything. We are woven seamlessly into the very fabric of existence. And the deeper that you go into the core, the essence of your being, the more that the boundaries between self versus other begin to dissolve, until there is just this absolute all-encompassing unity. And for me, there were many layers and levels to the DMT experience, but that felt like the deepest, the most profound, is one of complete unity with everything, with all of life. And this isn't some kind of like conceptual, intellectual understanding. This is a direct experience in a way that can't be put into words, in a way that can't be understood by the mind. It's the feeling that I am one with all that is. I am infinite. I am unified with the whole superstructure of existence. And along with that, there's just this overwhelming sense of love and bliss and freedom. Number 4 is summed up by,
what did I tell you? What did I tell you? And there is the secret. There is what you will understand. Why the ruling elite does not want us exploring the realms of the right brain. Understand, you don't have to take DMT to experience a DMT trip. You can do it through trance hypnosis, because you naturally secrete DMT through the pineal gland. But going back to what I was saying, do you understand the stupidity of the Christian religion, of trying to keep you trapped in left brain thinking, keeping you away from this profound sense of oneness? When you go on this experience and you take this medicine, do you know what happens? The ego breaks down and all the walls, the barriers, the parameters fall apart, and you become one with all that there is. And you experience happiness, peace, and love for your fellow man. And the ruling elite do not want that. They will kill rather than have you experience that. Can you imagine a planet where people are microdosing on DMT and experiencing love, joy, oneness, a profound sense that they are consciousness, not the physical body, and that where they don't care about materialism? What the hell would happen? We would vibrationally shift to a new reality where there would be no ruling elite. Do you see what they have done? Do you see how they have trapped the planet, imprisoned the planet in fourth dimensional thinking? Do you see how we are slaves? We are pathetic barbarians. We are brutal. We are unkind to each other. We are animalistic. We are violent. We are vicious. Because we are trapped in identification with the physical being. We have been lied to. We are given all of these things to subscribe to. Well, you know, you LABG2, you alphabet. No, you black, you white, you Latina, you Asian, you're Filipino, you're German. You are non-binary. You don't identify as a gender. You see all this nonsense that they're using to manipulate us, to separate us, and to keep us from exploring the true essence of who we are. You see what they have done to the planet. They have destroyed us. And do you see how we are trapped in the animal spirit? Our knee-jerk reactions, violence, anger, emotionalism. Nothing from the perspective of peace, love, harmony, oneness. When I speak to you, Akeem, when I speak to you, Hawkeye, when I speak to you, Mike, I am speaking to God. I am not speaking to Mike. I am not speaking to Akeem. That's a label. That's an erroneous label and definition. I am speaking to God. That's who I'm talking to. Consciousness. I am. Then you have these black nationalists and these white supremacists talking about white supremacy. No, consciousness supremacy. Because we are consciousness, and consciousness is unlimited in what it can do. Let's explore further. Let's explore further. There's more to look at. Okay? Because we can go deeper down the rabbit hole. Okay? Because this conspiracy is deep. A little known hallucinogenic drug called DMT takes people to a place that feels more real than real. Here's what researchers know about it. The state cannot be described with words. Sam, a regular user of hallucinogenic drugs, wrote to me when he described one of his experiences with DMT. It's a state where you exist in your purest form, a state of deep peace and happiness, he said. This world is beyond cool to look at, and it just seems that this is the place where we all came from, which is awesome. Spirals upon spirals began to appear, and infinite spirals would emerge out of other spirals. I was happiness itself. This world is mine, and the happiness is emerging only from me. Only from me. A trip on DMT is described by users like breaking out of a simulation. People report being able to access the true inner workings of their minds and describe the feeling of being launched into other dimensions where they experience their consciousness existing outside of their own bodies. One may experience coalescence with the very fabric of space-time, followed by the blast off into an alternate alien realm termed hyperspace by some, another call it Ellie, told Business Insider. Eli. The alternate realm defies all conceptions that we are accustomed to and typically presents an impossible geometric fractal patterns that possess eerie familiarity. I wish I could go into the geometric shapes that you'll experience and the fractals and all that. I don't have time to go into that. But one of the things I want to talk about with this is that the English language has been stripped of its vibrational tones that will enable us to manifest different realities. And also with that, you cannot put into these words, these limiting words, what an experience this profound would be. You can't word it. You can't put, I couldn't explain it to you. I can't explain these realms to you in words. Time and language are inconceivable, but you may experience telepathy conversations with the beings you encounter, he said. According to personal accounts, a DMT trip is different than the hallucinating on other drugs, such as mushrooms or LSD, because it takes you someplace completely different to this world, as opposed to modifying your relationship with the one you already exist in. In fact, the trip is so intense and abstract, get that. Some users have trouble explaining exactly what it's like. One user told me that attempting to write it down is essentially pointless, but a common theme among all users is the opinion that tripping on DMT feels more real than real, because you do realize that this is not reality. Haven't I always talked about that? That your experience is not reality. It is not. And don't get caught up in thinking that it is. Many of the users I spoke to mentioned their minds being pulled from their bodies, meaning alien entities or spiritual beings to guide them in an environment of vivid circus-like colors and patterns. There are also forums on the internet dedicated to particular figures that seem to appear time and time again, such as a jester. DMT was first found. Okay, I don't want to go into all of that right there, but you get my point. We're talking about something that's just extraordinary, that could save the planet. But you see, we're looking for salvation in an outside savior. We must accept Christ and you'll be saved and you'll be happy. Don't meditate. That's the gateway to the devil. No, Hinduism, African voodoo, Yoruba, those are religions of the devil. And if you explore those religions, it may open your third eye, and the pineal gland will start to secrete DMT, and you'll have a profound experience of oneness and love and peace. No, we don't want you to experience that. So stay trapped in our Western religions that keep you away from right brain experiences and keep you trapped in fighting against fictitious enemies. Yes, please do that. Let us hear what some individuals describe as these entities that they encounter through taking the medicine, which is how we should refer to DMT and ayahuasca as medicines, because that's truly what they are, because they heal you.
I know that you focus your research specifically on DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which I understand is essentially the most powerful psychedelic that we know of. But apart from that, what is it to you that is distinctive and interesting about this molecule?
Well, I think the most interesting thing about DMT, apart from the intensity of the experience, which, you know, as I said earlier, can make atheists non-atheists in 10 minutes, is that it's naturally occurring not just in various plants, but also in pretty much all mammals, as far as we know, including humans. So here we have a psychedelic agent which is naturally occurring in the human body, and we don't know necessarily what the function of that is, although there's been a lot of speculation, or even where it's produced, for that matter. But it is potentially a jigsaw piece in the puzzle of how spontaneous mystical and transpersonal experiences and parapsychological experiences arise. It could be that, you know, endogenous DMT that's made in the body could be part of the equation of how spontaneous experiences occur. And so that, for me, is probably one of the main reasons for studying it. But also, and I think it's probably because it is endogenous, it also has these extremely profound effects on people. I mean, life-changing, kind of worldview-changing, kind of atheist-changing effects.
So, as you know, one of the very common experiences during psychedelics, and especially DMT, though, are these very convincing encounters with apparent intelligences, which seem to be originating from outside of us somehow. They seem very other to us, and yet I know that you're open to the idea, among other possibilities, that these experiences could be legitimate encounters with other beings, other minds, potentially inhabiting different frames of reality on some level. So what is it that makes that a plausible idea for you?
Well, it's something that people tend to come away from the experience thinking, you know. People go into a DMT experience maybe not really knowing what to expect, or maybe having read some stuff, but you can't really prepare somebody for a DMT experience because it's beyond our realm of understanding, you know, in an ordinary state of consciousness. So people are genuinely kind of deeply surprised and kind of somewhat awestruck by the intensity of experience and encounters with seemingly sentient other beings occurs pretty frequently at high doses. And of course, one of the things about the DMT experience is that it seemed more real than waking reality. You know, if you had to kind of hedge your ontological bet on which reality was more real, most people would put it on the DMT experience. And hence it's kind of profoundly worldview changing capacities. So the experience alone leads people to accept the experiences often at face value, that they really did encounter otherworldly beings that exist in some other kind of disincarnate realm or some such. Aside from that, I mean, so we shouldn't necessarily just dismiss people's experiences because they're subjective, but also one of the other features is that there's a high degree of correspondence between people's experiences, perhaps even naively, so that, for instance, there are certain characters which seem to pop up with alarming recurrency, like the little people, for instance. So, you know, the experience of encounters with dwarves, elves, pixies, gnomes, whatever you want to call them, little people seem to occur quite a lot. And we also know that these experiences were relatively common pre the discovery of DMT. You know, people would spontaneously have encounters with little people, we know from folklore the world over. So that's an intriguing experience, as are some other kind of more obscure kind of characters, such as praying mantises, typically conducting, like usually huge praying mantises towering over the person, conducting kind of brain surgery on people and kind of rearranging their kind of neural makeup. This is what people report. Even people I've known naively have had these experiences and then were astonished to discover, oh no, that happens quite a lot. And then there are other kind of perhaps archetypal DMT motifs as well that recur. So why is it, you know, how do we kind of understand this from a reductionist point of view? Why should so many people seemingly independently have an encounter with a kind of giant praying mantis doing kind of brain surgery on them? Is there some kind of, you know, node in the brain which is triggered by DMT, which is specifically designed to induce these kinds of experiences? That seems very unlikely. One of the caveats, of course, is though that you can't ever have a completely culturally unmediated experience. There's no such thing. So it's hard to know what kind of cultural influences or baggage or prior knowledge or means a person brings to an experience like a DMT experience. You know, perhaps they're vaguely aware of elves. You know, maybe if they've read some Terence McKenna, for sure they knew about the elves. But some of the other characters are more obscure and still pop up with a high degree of recurrence when you might not necessarily expect that because there's not so much kind of cultural information out there about them. Ultimately, though, it's impossible to kind of pass the experience from people's cultural influences.
So basically what he's saying there is that one thing that validates the objectivity of this is that many people are reporting meeting similar beings. So it gets to a point where, yes, culturally, there may exist within the collective consciousness an archetype or understanding like, okay, we all subscribe to the idea of elves. Okay, so there could be, when you take this medicine, an experience when you're encountering elves. But what he's making the case for is that doesn't account for these other beings, such as the praying mantis beings and all these other beings that people all over the planet are encountering. So these beings have to be independent, an independent, authentic experience, and not an hallucination. How do you say that? Yeah. So it gives weight to the argument that it is a real, objective experience. So I want you to know that. But anyway, it is something that you do not, as I said before, have to go and take DMT on your own. That's not necessary. You can experience, not to that degree, but you can experience something very similar in trance state when you're meditating or when you're astral projecting. You can get there. Okay, I want you to understand that. And I think I've really given you guys enough information so you understand what's going on in the planet. You understand the conspiracy to shut down non-Western religions, the conspiracy to eliminate people of color from the planet, the conspiracy to hide the planet's true history, because the ruling elite does not want us to start diving into this realm, because it will profoundly change the way the planet is structured, shaped, and the way we behave as a people, because we behave so brutal to one another. We are messed up people psychologically, and I've said this time and time again. We think that we're advanced. We think that we are kind. We have a great judicial system. No, we do not. No, we do not. We are still on that same level as the caveman. The way we act. A country doesn't go according to what the United States wants. We send the military to overthrow the democratically elected leader. Someone pisses you off, you have a knee-jerk reaction to beat them up or to hit them. We're still governed by our animal spirit. And the ruling elite is getting off on this. They're feeding off this energy. They want the planet in this state, which is why they've won the battle already. And the New World Order does exist. It exists right here and now. And we're just moving to the next stage of that New World Order. So when you hear these conspiracy theorists talk about preventing the one world government and New World Order, you got to ask them where you've been. It's already here. It's already here. Slavery was the beta testing of the New World Order that African Americans went through, or African people went through. That was a beta test. That was a pilot test. They'll do that in the future on a global level. And I don't want to talk anymore about this because it is so upsetting to my person to see how far we have fallen, to see what God had in store for us and how we missed the boat. But we can get back there. We can rebuild what we lost. But we've got to work on it. We have to take the steps in the right direction. And the work starts with you, self-work. Work on self. And that's what I have dedicated my life at this point in time and space to, is helping people to reach the higher level of consciousness, the higher understanding of what's going on the planet. And if you get an opportunity, you guys sign up for Trans Mastery Hypnosis, because that's where I do a lot of my work in re-engineering human consciousness to understand these different realms and who you truly are. It's a great program. You will have profound experiences when you're in the program, because you're going to be subjected to hypnosis and experience these things firsthand. With that said, this is Kusankma Keperu. My mother is the goddess Ma'at. My father is the god Tahuti. Ma'at is a beautiful goddess Heteru. Till my next video, Amun Ra.